All right, everybody. I'm going to do a little idea that I had here. I've been talking to a few people around the area, beekeepers mostly, especially a lot of the younger folks. And it's become even more obvious. It's gotten talked about how the lack of shop classes being generally available has affected a lot of people. When I try to teach people how to build their own beehives, and we start getting out the tools so that we can start building them, they're not even aware of the tools, what they are, how to use them, what they do, those kind of things. So I thought DIY wise that one of the things I want to try to do is kind of maybe do like a little bit of a sort of a shop class, DIY shop class, because it's really important when you're learning how to do things like build a beehive or fix a car or do just about anything and you're doing it for yourself. You want to do a good job. And part of doing it right and doing a good job is by knowing how to do things the right way. Like tools, use the right tools, know what the tool is, know how to use it properly. What is it used for? The better you are with your tools, the better you're going to be able to use them and do a good job at whatever it is you're going to DIY at. Whether it be beekeeping and building beehives or working on your house, fixing a roof, building a stair set, making beeswax, who knows what. I mean, whatever it is you're going to do, you need to know the tools, the materials. You got to know the what, the how. So, and a lot of people that I've talked to, I've literally had to break down into a tools class. It's kind of like a home, small shop class, and I think that might come in handy here. So, first thing I really want to talk about when it comes to tools and introducing people to tools and in a shop class kind of environment is what kind of tools are out there and what are we doing with them. For example, you look at power tools versus electric tools versus air tools versus manually hand powered tools. And the biggest two things people are going to run into is going to be drivers and wrenches, screwdrivers and wrenches. Now, these are some examples. Here's a Stanley magnetic tip Phillips screwdriver. That kind of tip right there, that's called a Phillips tip, Phillips head. Okay, this is also a Phillips head. This is an old Craftsman set that I have. I had this a long, long time before they started getting really cheap made hand tools. This is a number 2 Phillips also. Now notice this is not magnetized. This is bought later on when people started figuring out, hey, we want to be able to grab a screw and not lose it, hold on to it just enough. This wasn't made for that back then. You're going to bump into some other screws that look more like this head. Now, yeah. Okay. That's called a slotted screw head. Phillips slotted. Okay. Manual power. You turn these by hand. Okay. And then you have powered screwdrivers nowadays. They're battery operated. These things are brilliant. I love powered tools, especially powered wrenches, powered screwdrivers. You've got, I invested a lot into the Works battery system, Works tool system, so I have a lot of Works tools. You notice that. It's got a Phillips head, but you can take this out and replace it with about 8 different other or more heads that have got what's called a hex for 6-sided, and it fits right in there, just like that. Okay, see, this is having all of these and more in one thing. This is beautiful. Okay, this kind of a tool is to me a work of genius. And it not so much because it renders these useless, because there's still a time and a place to use a manual or hand-powered tool. But we'll get to that. And then, of course, we got different kinds of wrenches. This is called bone-in, bone wrench, open, slotted. This is also from an old Craftsman kit that I had a long time ago. You got your adjusting wrench, okay? You got, oh, where'd it go? The good old ratchet set, a ratcheting kind of system. You put sockets onto these. So here's the actual wrench, and you put different, you're trying to drive different bolts or nuts, different sizes. You can get them in both standard, U.S. standard, or metric. And then you just pop these on there. And you can go to different sizes. And depending on which way you want to turn it, they're adjustable. So you can turn it forward and it'll lock one way, or you turn it the other way and it locks back. So you can get that rotation and movement. These are so handy. Now, these were the genius thing because they kind of took over from these, or can work in collaboration with these. They work in collaboration with these. Because when you talk about nuts and bolts, they have two ends. We're going to see that. Here's a nut and bolt set right here. Okay. Now, we have powered wrenches. Okay. We have, for example, this is a battery-powered impact wrench. This is for getting the heavy-duty things undone and done. So you need a lot of fastening power or unfastening power. These kind of wrenches, an impact wrench, gives you that heavy-duty power. Okay? That's kind of what you're looking for there. You got also these kind. Now, this is a driver, an impact driver. Now, this would kind of take the place of a screwdriver, except unlike these, and even this one here, this is for low torque situations. Not a lot of power is needed, just a lot of rotation. This is where this is the version of the impact wrench, except instead of nuts and bolts, you're using screws and small things like that, and it needs a lot to get driven into where it's going. So you got one of these, okay? You've got other powered versions of that. I don't have mine here in the house right now, but you've got, I've got air-powered ratchet wrench. You got air-powered impact wrenches. So lots of kinds of tools that have power now to replace the manual power. They're all relevant. None of these have been made irrelevant, okay? I call these the plan A. This is your first go-to tool, the power tool, okay? These are plan A. This is what you want to reach for. These are plan B. Okay, you always want to have hand-powered tools around because batteries run out, electricity turns off, air runs out, and you still got something to do. You've got your hand-powered tools to still be able to finish the job. You need to be able to do that. Also, there are situations where you need to have an actual feel for what it is you're working on. So if it's something like this, and you need to feel how much tension, how much resistance is being put on there. It's hard to know what real resistance is there when you're using a power tool. Sometimes it kind of hides it and it makes it a little harder to determine. And then you overturn, or you're hitting a little something wrong. You end up breaking a screw. You end up stripping the heads out. There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you don't have a good feel for what you're doing. A lot of fine handling kind of a situation. And for those, hand tools are still, I think, in my opinion, the best to have, because it's in your hand and you're feeling this sensation, the vibrations, you're feeling all of that, the resistance, and you get an idea for what's really going on there. Whereas with the power tool, it'll trick you sometimes and you overdo it and you break what you're working on. You don't want to break the piece you're working on. So you want to go with the hand tool in a lot of those situations, okay? But really, power tools take the grunt work, the basic stuff out of our hands. So you got a long screw. Now you go to take, a screw like this, and you start to screw it in there, and you're going to do a lot of this. Yeah, and you're turning, and you're turning, and you're turning, and you're turning. And that's just what you're going to do, and you're going to keep doing that. Okay? Or, there's a lot of work in that. Or you take a power tool. And again, put that right on in there. And let's get this in here, right, so we can see the power button. There we go. And let's tip this back up. See, now you see, here's the power button right here. Okay? We're going to put that right there. Now, just click that power button down. I am not turning my hand at all. See that? Take it back out. Just like that. Now, why is that important? Instead of doing this and turning and turning and turning and turning and turning. Okay, see this turning? There's actual damage in our wrists and our fingers that we can do. Carpal tunnel syndrome, repetitive turns and movements of our body. We get carpal tunnel. We can do damage to ligaments in muscles, muscle fatigue. Oh my gosh, the hand cramps after doing this all day long will kill you. Telling you, man. At least it feels like it. But then you take a power tool and all of that is removed. No more having to put up with. It's just like that. All that repetitive movement of your hand, that damage, the wear is taken away. That's working smarter, not harder. Anybody tells you using one of these makes you lazy because you don't want to sit here and do this. One, doing this by hand is more time consuming. Time is money. Even if it's a DIY situation, there's other things you need to be doing in your life than spending a half an hour trying to turn a screw, right? Take that 5 minutes it might take you to do that. Turn it into 10 seconds with this. That's time in your life you'll never get back doing it this way. Here, bang, you got that time back. Okay, you're not doing any damage. You're not getting all that, like I said, carpal tunnel. You're not getting fatigue. You're not getting ligament damage. None of that. Also, it's safer because a lot of times you're turning and you're turning and you're turning. And if you've been working on cars or anything, you'd be turning and you strip that for a moment and it hits wrong. If you got a piece of metal, something around here, you be turning, you're always hitting your fingers. You're always damaging, hitting your hand, the back of your hand, the top of your hand. Always something. You're hitting not enough room, small spaces, and you're trying to turn and turn and turn. And that movement in a confined space, you end up getting cuts and scrapes and splinters and name it. You save yourself all of that wear and tear on your body because you used this instead. This is working smarter, not harder. This is great. There's so much stuff we would never have if these had never been invented and we didn't have these. Power goes out, battery dies, you don't have this, and we still got to get this in there. You want one of these or more. That doesn't mean that has to be your go-to, your first option. That just means if we get to that point, you can still get it done. Otherwise, use this. This right here, the power, let it do the work for you. Save wear and tear and damage. Okay? Now, same thing goes with the wrench styles, okay? First, before, in days before, here's, you'd be putting, I can't tell you how many times. Got a nut. Right here, you got a nut. Got a bolt. And you thread it in. Okay? Now, if it's long enough, that gets tedious, monotonous, it's boring. Your mind dies a little bit by every turn and twist. And again, you have the same damage. Carpal tunnel, ligament damage, a lot of muscle fatigue. All because this here. Plus, it's hard on your fingers. You got very small contact areas here, okay? So then, okay, now let's go ahead. We get the wrench. Okay, we hold one end. Yes. Now, first off the bat, this is not the way you really want to do this, because this has a limited range. You see, so many people will go and apply this to a nut. Now, if you're going to use a ratchet on a nut end, you want to make sure that it's going to only go down so far and then stop. Because what you don't want is where you have a lot of excess thread coming up here, because then you're going to get to a point where it can't really get through there. You know what I'm saying? It's going to stop because there's a finite point there, a finite space. So you really only want to use these here. This is the point where you're using these. This is the wrong size socket. But my point is, you use it here so that this point, you just, nice open space. Look at that, just like that. Now this open, and it doesn't matter how much thread you go through, it's not going to get blocked or impeded or anything. And you grab your ratchet and you're going to turn and turn and turn. And you can do it that way because you're going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally, it's going to get to that point. And you're going to be done. Okay? That's the beauty of this ratchet over having to do something like this. Okay? Now you're doing two of these, and you're playing this wrestling game, and I can't tell you how many people have ever, over a history of time, have played that game. Or you get two dog bones, or two of these, okay? Or to combine them, to put these two together. This here just saved a whole lot of wear and tear on your wrist and your hands. Right here. Okay? And then I've got an air-powered ratchet, and I've got a battery, but like I said, I don't have them with me right here. I just threw this together on the spur of the moment. That's the biggest part. No power tools, hand tools, wrenches, and screwdrivers are the two most commonly used types of tools. You want to go for the power tools as much as you can, not just because it helps you get the job done more quality look or durable in terms of usability, but also because it saves you on your body. It's more safe to operate. It saves so much for you. And these are things you want to look for. Work smarter, not harder. This is what they're talking about. You know, instead of working for 5 minutes turning this thing, 10 seconds pushing that button right there. That job is done, and it's done right, and it's done probably a little bit tighter or straighter, because otherwise when you're moving your hands, some people wiggle and move a lot. This, you just hold it in place and it stays straighter. Okay, so you a lot of times get a better job done, a better quality job by using the power tools, because you're not relying on the human fragility as much, shakiness or anything like that. It's just stable, consistent. Power tools help you do that. So right off the bat, there's our first DIY shop class on using tools, knowing a bit about our wrenches, knowing a bit about our screwdrivers or drivers, and powered versus hand powered versus battery powered or air powered. We want to shoot for more power, the battery powered, whatever, because that's our plan A, always our go-to first. Plan B, when we need something special, is going to be this. We need to get a good feel for the contact, what we're doing. Feel that resistance. Feel what we're kind of dealing with in something that this might kind of disguise because of the power. You're just handling and pushing a button. You're not getting a good feel for that necessarily. This, you get to feel that issue, that work in progress. Go to grab your tools. Get good tools. And remember, a good tool is not necessarily the most expensive one, the most super high-poweredest one. It's the tool that gets the job done that you need to get done. I love Milwaukee. I love DeWalt. Those are great brands. Those are great tools. But 90% of what they can do, this can do. This brand works. It's not a pro brand like DeWalt or like Milwaukee, but it gets the job done just as well, just as good for much less price. And that's what's most important. Can it do what is required? Not can it compete with Milwaukee, but can it compete with what the work calls for? I need to be able to put this screw all the way down. Will this do it? Yes. Then it's a contender. I don't care what the brand is. It could be competing directly with a Milwaukee. You can lay a Milwaukee, a DeWalt, a Ryobi Works. I don't care the brand. Craftsman. Doesn't matter. As long as it can do the work that is needing to be done. Can it do it? Yes. Can it do it well? Can it do it what is required? Yes. Maybe a little more? Great. If it can do that, and that's 90% of what you need done, why would you pay $100 more for something you don't need? Okay? You can play the what just in case and what if all day long, but what matters is how much money you got in your pocket in reality to spend versus, hey, look, this actually gets this done. This tool over here is a little less or maybe even a little more or about the same price, but doesn't get that done. And there are situations you'll find where there's other tools that don't get it done. You want to buy tools that get the job done, get the task done. And that's what you're looking for, and that's what you're grabbing for, and that's what you're paying for. Don't worry about a brand name. Worry about what gets the task done. That's what you put in your hand. All right, my friends, that's the end of this shop class. I'll plan a better one out. This was a spur of the moment thing. I'm going to start thinking these things out, and we'll do some let's have some nice things set up with the proper tools, and we'll go over more in depth on some of these types of tools and what they are, how to use them, when and why to use a particular tool. That way you get a little better idea of that when you go to do something, you've got the right things in your hands versus not. And then, you disappoint yourself, you disappoint, whoever it is you're doing that for, and it just doesn't get that done. And we don't want that. When you DIY, you want to do it the best you can with what you've got. That's what we're shooting for here. Okay? Y'all have a great day.